What is good, beautiful people? I'm your host, King Lion of Locks, and we're back with another review. This time it's my review of Morbius, the Jared Leto movie. To be honest with you guys, I came in with the movie at very low expectations. I was not expecting it to be anything vainglorious, especially since Jared Leto's last movie, Suicide Squad, was a flop. Not so much him was the flop. Well, actually, he was one of the reasons why the movie flopped. Actually, the main reason why the movie flopped. Unless you went for Deadshot and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. But we're talking about the Marvel Universe this time. So this is Jared Leto's redeemable role as Morbius, a famous doctor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that turns into a blood-sucking vampire. The movie was, like I said, I had my expectations low for it, and to be honest with you, it hit expectations. It didn't do anything too vainglorious. It kind of stayed to a set script that most B class movies will do. So it didn't have to rise to any expectations, but it didn't also lower either. It kind of stayed at the same, like I thought it was going to. But without further ado, we can get into the movie. I'm going into South Africa. A helicopter drops down, and Michael Morbius comes out with his trying to come up with a term that is for these things that are not bent back paper clips. So bear with me because I wanted to say bent back paper clips, but they're not bent back paper clips. Crutches. There we go. Don't blame me. Cat Williams said it. Anyway, he was crutches. So after Morbius gets off of the plane, he sets up his little device because he's hunting vampire bats. He cuts his hand and sends the bats flying towards him, and he's able to capture them. In the midst of him trying to capture the bats, we get a flashback to young Morbius. He is in this school, or I would say more so hospital, where kids that have deformities or genetic deformities basically, or sicknesses would say, and he's there with one of his soon-to-be friends. We are introduced to one of his friends. His friend, I actually forgot his name. Okay. He gets introduced to his friend, Matt Smith, aka Crown, and Crown is the villain of the movie. We find out later on in the movie. No spoilers. Shh. So his friend Crown is there, and they are both very sickly ill, and it's through them hanging out with each other. Morbius starts to get a attachment to this guy, kid at the time. And at first he was hesitant to get this not attraction, but this build this connection or the social link with his friend, because a lot of them don't make it that long. They all die at a young age because of this disease. Fortunately, Morbius is very smart, and when Crown was getting Crown was about to die, due to his machine was malfunctioning, he was able to fix it with just the spring from a pin. And one of the doctors or professor, doctors or principal. Again, I wasn't sure if it was like a hospital or a school, because I saw like a lot of stuff around that made it look like it was like a intensive care for sickly kids or an actual school, like Professor Xavier's school. I know it wasn't, but it looked like it. But the doctor told Morbius that he can get him out of this hospital school and get him into a actual school that can help him out because he's very intelligent. And Morbius took that, and he told his friend that, hey, when I come back, I'm going to find a cure for our diseases. And we get flashed forward to present day after Morbius somehow was able to not only capture these vampire bats, but prevent them from sucking his very frail ass. Not entirely sure how they did that. They didn't want to explain that to us either. Anyway, Morbius has won a Nobel Peace Prize for artificial blood. And with that, we get fast forward further into the movie where he's helping out a kid who also has the same immunity. I don't know the term that the disease that they were going through, but the same type of ailment. It's getting to the point where now we are introduced into the love interest of the movie. Again, her name is very forgettable. We just know that she's the love interest. Maria. Very good actress. She hit her mark on everything. She gave the she gave the I'm here to help out, but I'm also like I can do some stuff on my own. She was a not just not just the love interest, but also the co-work co-worker slash head nurse with him, not nurse, head doctor with him. I do apologize for that. And she knew that he had captured some vampire bats because somehow she found them when she was into his lab. Not again doesn't really tell us how, but when she went into his lab one day, she saw that there was this big ass tube, hit a set of numbers that was apparently code the reverse number for pi, and out came vampire bats. Um, he tells she tells Morbius, "Hey, you need to tell the board what are you doing with all their money because they're gonna want to know what you're doing." And he said, "Well, at this point, they won't matter because I'm getting ready to die soon." Morbius's life is coming to an end again with his disease. He was not expecting to live as long as he has, but with the life he has had, he is looking for a way to cure himself. Him and his friend Crown, that's still alive as well. We get introduced to Crown now in the present day. He is a pompous asshole that gets in trouble a lot. Which you could say on the fact that when Morbius left his friend didn't really handle it well. They were already made and bullied as kids because of their deformity. So you know without Morbius there, he kind of lost his anchor to, I guess, not acting like an ass. But now that he's an adult, he does things that he probably should not have had, like gambling with the yakuza, I believe, or some other mob boss, and they were getting ready to attack him because he was counting cards because he's very smart. He is very smart. But he got inherited a lot of money. They didn't really explain that either, or at least if they did, I just completely glossed over it. But he inherited a lot of money, and Morbius has been using some of his funding to help forward his experiments to try and cure them. He needed him to go to international waters so that way he can combine human and vampire DNA uh, to help him with his disease that he has. So they go to the international waters. They get some mercenaries there, and I completely forgot that I had notes down this whole time. I've been freeballing it, and I didn't even have notes. I mean, if anything, that should get a like and a follow right there. But rich friend, they go to the international waters. Okay, so I wasn't too much far off my notes. I like it. The movie was beat for beat, like I said. So as we're in international waters, Morbius is trying his serum. It looks like that it's holding to the human and vampire DNA. He tried it with rats and vampire DNA, and the rat did die, it looked like, but it came back from the shock. So he thought that, okay, maybe it's a good sign. So let's try it with human DNA. And the test showed that it did work well. So when he inserted it into himself, shockingly, it did not work out as well as he thought he did. And more shockingly, he starts to turn into the Morbius that we see later in the movie. Unfortunately, when he changes, he was unable to control himself, and he went into a bloodlust, starting to kill everything that was on that boat. All but the doctor. He did not kill her. He was able to keep his mind enough to not kill her, which is amazing because he was going on a bloodlust. He woke up from his blood binge, ripped his hell, confused, but he was like, okay, well, clearly I'm back to normal. I'm better than normal. His bones have healed. He doesn't have to use the cane anymore, and of course, he has the stereotypical you work at Marvel or X-Men abs. Um, he calls the police. He calls the police off the ship and then leaves the ship because with all these dead, drained bodies and one unconscious doctor, not nurse, unconscious doctor, he kind of looks like the suspect, so he has to leave. After he leaves, he realizes he after he leaves, he tests his ability out. He understands that he now has heightened ability. He has heightened agility, strength, and echolocation, as well as the fact that the insatiable urge of he needs to have blood. If he doesn't take intake blood, whether it be the artificial blood, blue blood as they like to call it, or the human blood, red blood as they are, blue or red. Artificial is blue, of course. Human is red. He will die or lose control and go on his blood binge again. And as he tries to test it, it looks as though the artificial blood only gives him about 6 hours, but it's not gonna hold him. Eventually, he has to take more blue blood, until the point of which the blue blood just won't work anymore, and he will have to take human blood. And he was not ready to make that sacrifice to do that again, or so he thought, because one night after he had to yell at his friend to leave because his friend had came into the lab and saw him almost turning because he hadn't had any blood in a while. Morbius let him know that I found a cure, but it's not a cure, it's a curse. This is what I am now because of the fact that I've taken this serum. His friend did not like that, and his friend wanted the cure even if it turned him into that. Again, like I mentioned, there was a incident later that night where we get seen of an actual nurse running down the hallway and then getting attacked and drained. So we believe that it's Morbius. We believe that it's Morbius, or at least meant to believe that it's Morbius. Even Morbius thinks it's him, so he has to run away. As he runs away, we are introduced, kind of, sort of, we were introduced, but I wanted to save it to the end, to the police officers in this case, because, all these dead bodies, and New York has now lowered the authorities. And at first they didn't too much mind because there was, mercenaries. They were probably already did worse things. But when you kill a nurse, that's when the police officers get involved. And one of the police is Fast and Furious's own Tyrese, and in an actual very serious role. He had his own comic relief, which I will say, their personalities did not match. Like, the guy that was supposed to be making jokes, his jokes just weren't hitting, and then Tyrese was very stoked and serious, and I was like, I'm not used to you being serious in a Marvel, in a movie about vampires that take blood in the middle of New York. Wasn't expecting that, but it is what it is. So yeah, they are investigating it. They find Morbius. Morbius escapes from them, and he goes around and he tries to run away from the police officers. Unfortunately, they do capture him, and that's when they realize, they go to the whole story of like, hey, what happened to you? Can you tell us what happened? Why are you like this? And he refuses to tell them. He lets them know this is a curse. He didn't mean this. And he does apologize. He doesn't know if he killed this woman or not. He probably didn't. If he did, he didn't mean to. But he does know that he's getting very, very hungry. And if they don't get him his bag of blue blood, he's going to kill someone. The police officers don't believe him, and they make him go into the cell. And as he stays in the cell, he starts to change and starts to get angrier and getting hungrier. And this is when one of the police officers let him know that his lawyer has came in. And he was like, my lawyer? And here comes Crown on his cane. Crown is letting him know that, hey, I know you didn't kill this person. We're going to get you out of here. I believe in you, King. Don't let them hold you down. And here's some red blood for you. I got to go. As he's leaving, Morbius is trying to put two and two together. Like he's like, wait a minute. How did you have blood here? When did you get to sneak in here? How do you know I needed the red blood to... Wait a minute. Your cane. You didn't even take your cane with you. And as he's walking away, like the fucking scene from like Scary Movie, or I can assume Scream, they used that scene where Dobby, or whatever the fuck the guy's name is from Scream, takes off his little takes off his little sheriff's outfit and everything, switch overs, and was like, yeah, and walks out of there like nothing fucking happened. None of the police officers like, hey man, the same guy that was coming in here as a crutch is slowly walking like he ain't got a problem. That don't raise any red flags. No, we just don't care. We just don't care. Um, so Morbius finds that out and is upset. He breaks the police office down and goes looks for his friend. He finds his friend and they have a little fight scene. And I will say that I will bring attention to the CGI in the movie. Morbius's CGI for his face. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it doesn't. The animations that they use where they were using shadow, kind of sort of like shadow magic or shadow attacks, that actually looked good. I did like that. But what I did not like is his friends, or I guess the antagonist of the movie, his transformation. So his vampiric look more like skulls, or the Fallout people that had been irradiated for fuck a long time, and so it kind of threw me off. But everything else in the movie, it looked good. It looked visibly pleasing. Once Morbius has escaped his friend because he realizes that his friend is a little bit too strong. His friend has been eating people instead of taking the blue blood, which we find out that blue blood, while blue blood will keep you going, red blood is like it awakes a primal urge into you, gives you that strength, that spark. And so, his friend's a lot stronger than him. And so after Morbius has escaped his friend, the doctor lady, whose name, again, I just like, to be honest with you, if she was not in this movie, the movie would have been okay. The only reason why they brought her in the movie is because she's a love interest and what happens later in the movie, which we'll get to. But again, the love interest, I hate to call her like that, but I'm a spade to spade. The love interest wakes from her coma. The police officers let her know that, hey, you were on this boat by yourself. Everyone that was left on there has been died and drained. And she knows what happened, but she plays dumb and she says, I don't know what happened. But can I leave now because I'm in the fucking hospital and you guys are asking me questions. I just had a fucking coma and I'm coming out of it and you're already asking me questions. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? Why is this happening? Anyway, I don't know what's with people now doing this. Like, people come out of fucking comas and you ask them a bunch of questions. Get the fuck out of my face. I don't understand that. But she walks away. She gets discharged from the hospital and then gets onto a bus. As she's getting on the bus, she's right behind Morbius. And he's like, hey, I'm here. I don't know what happened. I'm just trying to stop my friend because he's now killing people. And they start talking and we realize that now Morbius has to find a lab to do his experiments to try and figure out a way to either cure or kill his friend. The line that was put into the movie, when he's breaking the guy's finger and he says we are Venom, in context made absolutely no fucking sense in this movie. I know that the big hype about it was like, wow, is Morbius going to be in the Venom's universe? Is he going to be in like Amazing Spider-Man's universe? And the movie doesn't explain it to you. It really doesn't. It's more confusing if anything. Because in that scene, Morbius has never heard of Venom. He has no idea who Venom is. He just says that he says that I am Venom. And then he fixes the guy's hand after he got done popping it. And he's like, yep, now go, leave. And he tells him to fuck off and he leaves. That was it. That's the whole scene. They edited out the whole, it's just your friend Michael Morbius to lure people in. And I was incredibly upset because one, I was like, okay, the scene wouldn't make any sense now. But two, you find out that we were lied to begin with. That was one of the times I was pissed with the movie. But after that scene, we get an uncomfortable scene where Crown is now flexing his new vampiric powers and dancing around to Ricky Ricky Martin music. There we go. Uh, Ricky Martin music and flexing his powers and strength, doing one-handed push-ups, sit ups, wall squats, changing into the vampiric form, and flexing in the mirror and doing like in vogue faces, Blue Mountain or the Magnum. There we go, faces like that. He goes to a bar and he picks up on a chick, tries to pick up a chick. Unfortunately, her biker boyfriend was there and he didn't like that and beat up on Crown. Crown realized that while he could kill them, decided to leave. He left and waited until that guy came down drunk or came out the bar drunk and then drained him dry. Uh, as I mentioned, eventually Morbius does create a poison. He was not able to create a cure, but he did he created a poison for him and his friend in case, well, mainly for his friend, but also for himself in case that blue blood does not last much longer. Because at around this time, the blue blood only can hold him for about 2 to 4 hours, and so he realizes that hey, this. I'm going to need to take human blood, and I refuse to take another human life. And so he gave one of these serums to the love interest and went to go look for his friend. Around the time he was looking for his friend found his love interest and kidnapped her. This is love interest. Had him come find her after he had after Crown had punctured her neck, causing her to bleed out. Morbius finds her, and he holds her tight as she's getting ready to die, and she tells him that hey, make this count, and he's like, I can't do this. And as they're kissing, she bites his lip, and blood falls into her mouth, and she licks it. And then he decides to kill her. Yeah, so clearly she's not dead, but we're gonna pretend like she's dead. As now that she's dead, Morbius drains her dry of all her blood, and he goes to fight his friend. As they're fighting, they have this big old fight scene, CGI to hell, but it's okay. It looks kind of cool. And they go underground. At this point, his friend is doing a lot of damage to him and has ripped open his stomach. Morbius is trying to heal himself, but in the midst of him healing, he yells out a monstrous roar, trying to collect all of his brethren, the other bats, to come by and help him. And as he's coming, the bats to come help him, they all swarm down, and he proceeds to meditate and do a big fucking kamehameha of bats on his friend. And as he's down blasting them down with key waves of bats, he takes the serum and he stabs his friend and kills his friend. He then leaves and fucks off into a cutscene of him flying away and his girlfriend turning into a vampire. Because bum bum bum, when you take the blood of a vampire, we're gonna say that they took it so much that she took his blood and now ingested into her. When she took his blood and tasted it, she turned into a vampire. We can say that, or we can say that when he drained her dry, she turned into a vampire. Which either way, if the other one happens, is probably a little bit more fucked up, but it can lead us into the Blade movie coming out, because it could show that Crown has created vampires that now created more vampires. But I like to think it's mostly because he ingested her blood. But that was the end of the movie. Again, it was short, sweet. I think it was about an hour and 30. We get hit with a extra cutscenes where with the events from No Way Home, the Vulture has been transported to another Queens. We don't know which Queens it is, again, because we don't know what universe this is at, but we know that it's not the Tim Holland universe anymore. So it could be Amazing Spider-Man, it could be the Venom world, it could be even Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Since both of those movies have been confirmed to have an ending too. Spider-Man 4 will be coming out whenever, I'm not entirely sure, and Amazing Spider-Man will have its third movie. So they may have Vulture be in this one because he calls Morbius down to the middle of nowhere and he says that, hey, I don't know how I got here, but I know it's Spider-Man's fault, proving that they know of Spider-Man. They just don't know who he is, showing that, well, at least Vulture doesn't know who Spider-Man is because of the wish, but also that there is a Spider-Man in this world. And so they said that they're going to work together to try and figure out where, or yeah, to find out where Spider-Man is, and try and figure out how can they get out of here, or at least help Vulture get out of here. It was like it wasn't really too, it didn't really too much make sense. They just Morbius drove his car into the middle of nowhere. Falcon came down. Vulture came down and was like, hey, don't know how I got here, but I know it's Spider-Man's fault. I think maybe me and you can work together and we can have some fun. And that was the end. Like, Morbius, what are you doing? You were just a good guy a minute ago. Now you're gonna work with the Vulture just for fucks all because your girlfriend's dead and you just have nothing to live for. It didn't make sense. But yeah, that was the movie. Like I said, it was kind of short, sweet. It was a mid movie, very mid. It didn't really rise to expectations, but I will say I wasn't disappointed in it because I already had low expectations for it. And again, I wouldn't say this time it was Jared Leto's fault because one, he had actual good character that I felt like fit him. Him as Morbius, I could very much believe. I just feel like this movie, the way that they were, the script that they were given, or at least the direction they were given, they took from a lot of different tropes from a lot of different movies, where the love interest ends up dying to give the character the strength to keep going, or the character is cursed with a power that they have, or their best friend is their villain. Wait a minute, this sounds like anime. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. I think they were just trying to make an anime. That probably would have been a lot cooler than the live action. Anyway, it just the movie wasn't too much to like write home about. Was enough to make a movie though, or and a video. But that would be said, thank you guys very much for stopping by. I have been your host, King Lion of Vlogs, and let me know what you guys think about the movie. Peace.